Hi, everyone. I stopped sharing the screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, everyone. First of all, I have to say that I'm very excited towards this webinar, basically from two reasons. The first one, the most important one, is that we have, and you probably know because you joined, an amazing, super talented leading team today, Anika and Rachel, both CS leaders with vast experience, both in working in tech B2B, but also as a consultant, which brings it more depth of expertise and knowledge. And secondly, we have a huge topic today, 2024 roadmap to boosting revenue from existing customers. I can see that this topic is, I know it's something that all of you are dealing with right now. So it's huge. And I can tell you from the prep conversation, there's a wealth of insights and knowledge to share today, which is amazing. So I'm going to just jump right in because we do have a lot to cover. My name is Adi, to anyone who doesn't know me yet. I'm the brand and comms lead at Everafter. We are a B2B customer interface. To the new people here, our platform is fully white labeled, a no-code solution to basically create customer interface for any part in the customer journey. The idea is to streamline, automate, and personalize your entire journey from POC to onboarding, ongoing support, automated QBRs, and basically we support any use case CS can think of. Just before we start, the recording will be shared with all of you tomorrow latest with fun links in there. So wait for the surprises. We love a conversational webinar, so feel free to ask any question you have during. If they relate to the topic we're talking about, we will take them as a part of the conversation. So drop whatever comes to your mind during the webinar. So I'm going to let Anika and Rachel introduce themselves. Rachel, would you like to start?
Sure, absolutely. So, hi, I'm Rachel Provan. I am the head of Provan Success, which is a customer success leadership coaching company. I have that, now it's 18. My website says 17. I have to update it. I have 18 years in CS. 15 of those were in seat as a CS leader. I've worked with everything from seed stage all the way up to Fortune 500 companies in different kinds of markets. And yeah, I had a ton of fun doing that, but I got to the point where I just realized I loved teaching CS people. I love CS people. So now I help new leaders learn how to do the role and absolutely kick ass at it because it is especially difficult nowadays. So that is what I do now, and it's so much fun.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Anika?
I am Anika Zubair. I am currently head of customer success at Griffin, which is an embedded finance solution. And I recently joined the team about nearly 4 months ago, which is crazy to think and say. I feel like I'm still new there, but I have spent the last 13 years in B2B SaaS, always primarily focused in the post-sales revenue functions, meaning customer success and everything that comes from it, anything from professional services, customer success, support, education, community, you name it. I've been there, done that. And I've mostly been, like I said, in B2B SaaS, now in FinTech. I'm also a customer success coach as well. I do coach one-on-one as well as in small cohorts, but I love this topic that we are going to talk about today because I think that it's something that is not discussed enough. And I think it's kind of surfacing in customer success. A little bit of background, I was in sales before I was in customer success. And so a lot of naturally what I do, I think is natural, but I obviously understand that CS has held many hats. And one of them is newish, which is revenue. And I know that that's a very hot topic as we go into 2024. So excited to dive into the questions today.
Amazing. So I didn't know that you had background in sales, and I love it because it is exactly the missing link in that.
I was an
challenging
SDR. That was
topic.
my first role. I was an SDR and then an account management before CS was a thing. And then when CS became a thing, I became a CSM.
Yeah, I did account management too. And I'm more in sales
Challenging.
now than I've ever been.
When you have a personal business, yeah, you are the
Yeah,
salesman, marketeers, you're everything.
yeah,
Okay, so we all basically know that cross and upselling can become easier if they are organically, if they arise organically at various points throughout the customer journey. That's why identifying key moments is so crucial if you want to expand and our accounts basically and the company's revenue. So, question, how do you identify key engagement moments for optimal upselling and cross-selling from your experience? So, Anika?
Yeah, I can start. Sure. Another bit of background, I feel like I've always been at startups and scale-ups. That's my whole career. So a lot of the questions I will answer will probably be from companies that are growing or CS teams that are growing. But in my experience, finding key moments of engagement and where you should actually upsell and cross-sell come from your customer lifecycle journey and mapping out exactly what you're expecting your customer to do. I always say this, like the first thing you should always be identifying is what the heck your customers are doing with your product and what you're hoping and expecting them to do with your product. And based on value moments or moments of wow, I like to call them, that is when you should be like identifying that's the key moment to upsell and cross sell. But I strongly believe it is part of your entire journey. So if you've done a correct onboarding, then you should have a moment of wow where you're able to at least showcase new products or maybe a new way to use or a more enhanced way to use your product. That's a moment of wow. And that's a proactive moment that you can take to really showcase to your customers, hey, we did something that was super valuable in set amount of time in onboarding, and then use that moment as an engagement moment to actually discuss an upsell or a cross sell or whatever it is you're actually aiming for. But you do need to have that mapped out. It can't just be like, hey, I feel like bringing up a new feature because we've launched a new feature today. That makes no sense to a
right.
customer that like maybe isn't at that maturity level yet.
Yeah, it's even overloading them with irrelevant content in a very busy, crazy day.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Rachel?
that I think that erodes the trust too. If you're just trying to tell them about something, it's like a lot of CSMs, you know, aren't initially very comfortable with sales, but I think that's because they have the wrong idea of what it truly is and how it can help people. Um, and they also think like just by selling, I'm going to erode the trust. No, by selling badly, you're going to erode the trust. But they know you're in a commercial relationship. Like if I go into a store and I'm shopping for something and I'm trying on an outfit and a sales associate is like, you know what, I have a belt that will go perfectly with that. Like, get it. I can't accessorize. Help me. Um, However, if they come up with like, I don't know, a tuxedo, we'd be like, you're bothering me. So it really is about the right thing for the right people. Can this help the person? And sometimes people don't know what they need. So you need to know what is helpful to people when. And this is the tricky part, but what are the symptoms of someone who has the problem that you can solve? Like this product keeps your pants from falling down. How do you know that this person has that issue? Or that that person can't accessorize? Well, she's not wearing any jewelry. She's basically dressed in just like a sack. Those are some symptoms. Dumbing it way down. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I like to look at it, like asking questions, probing for those problems, and knowing the who and the what, how those combine.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I think Rachel hit it nail on the head with like giving the right offer depending on what they're looking for. Because like if a salesperson just came to you and said, hi, I need to sell you this product today because I need to make my quota, that is where you eroded trust. And like, I don't need a tuxedo, but I might need a belt, or I might need, an accessory, or I might need something else. This is a moment of value where it's like you're adding to the conversation and you're really discovering what your customer wants, which discovery is a huge sales tactic. And I think it's underutilized in customer success. And yes, you can have a perfect customer journey map, which I never think it is perfect, but you can have one and you can be like, oh, there's a moment of wow, I want to go in and impress this client. Whether this client decides to upsell or cross sell with you or not, that was a learning moment and a moment of curiosity and a moment of where you're able to actually discover what your customer wants. So yes, you can be proactive and map it all out, but without asking the right questions, or like Rachel said, mapping symptoms to the results that you're hoping to get, you're not going to be able to really know what that customer needs.
And I
True.
would also point out that a lot of people, when they create their customer journey, they're only creating what we're doing on our side. Like, up, I emailed them this here, up, we're done with onboarding at this point, and, not including the customer in the customer journey. Yes, it makes it harder. Yes, it's more of a pain, but that's really the way you discover how they get to value. Like, what are those moments of wow? And I think if you don't have value realization where they got the thing they came for, goal achievement, whatever you want to call it, that is a stage in between adoption and whatever comes next, expansion, renewal. You can sell things before that, but it's going to be a lot harder. And it's better to just be like, here, this is what you came for. We got it for you. Let me show you what else we can do. Here's how else we can help you. But you need to know we've owned up to our side of the bargain first.
True. So it's like, I think you already answered that, but basically it looks like there are key engagement moments that are universal, and you can understand them before, like the moment you finish onboarding. But there are probably key engagement moments that are not universal, and you need to drill down in your customer journey to realize what are those. Any recommendation or tactic or strategy you find more beneficial to expose those moments in your personal customer journey?
I came back to the discovery piece. I think that you can map everything out with all the data points, which we have millions now, which is amazing. It's great that we're collecting all this data on usage, on number of days they're using our software, on what they purchase versus what they're doing, et cetera. So I think all of that is brilliant that we have that many data points today, which is great, because if you asked me 10 years ago, I was begging for like data on customer usage, but we have that now, which is amazing. But I think that aside from having that customer journey, what Rachel was also saying is that we need to really map out what they are doing and how they are interacting, and then use that to connect back to value moments. And I think that's the name of the game in 2024, is how do we connect our customers' value of our product to our personal like KPIs and goals? Because we've always had NRR and we've always had GRR as our metrics that we have to hit, but a lot of times we don't connect it to customer value. And I do think that that's like the missing link that CS is really having to solve for. And you really do need to identify value moments or value outcomes that your customers are getting with your product.
Even deeper
Right,
than
because that's
engagement moment.
everyone talks about GRR and NRR, but that's the result of everything else you do. So sure, do it however you want. If we're leading people in CS, if we're teaching people in CS, we have to say, okay, what are those value drivers? What do you do to make that happen? And, I think one of those, and I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but it's to talk to your customers. Here's what I recommend on that. I know, but we talk to them so much, it's like, one more meeting. I don't want one more meeting. They don't want one more meeting, right? But your customers who are doing well, who are happy with the product, I recommend bribing them with a $25 Starbucks gift card, because then it feels like, ooh, I'm getting a present. I'm getting something fun, even though their time is probably worth more than $25 for that amount of time. People don't make that connection. If you can't tell, I'm a psych nerd. But you basically say, look, we love the way that you've adopted this. You're doing great with it. We'd love it if we could just ask you a few questions. We'll pay you in coffee for your time. But we'd love to know what you're doing on your side, because we'd love our other customers to do what you do, to act like you. And that's very flattering to people. And they're like, why, of course, I'll share how brilliant I am. And you do that with a few key customers. If you have multiple use cases and multiple markets, you're going to have to do it a few times for each of those. But just find out what a success look like, and then reverse engineer it from there as best you can.
Great tip. So once we've identified those key moments, the next step will be to leverage them effectively, seizing those opportunities. How do you leverage these key engagement moments for optimal upselling and cross-selling, which combine like the CS understanding with the salespeople capabilities?
Well, I think if you aren't already comfortable with the sales skills or the ability to upsell or cross-sell, that's probably where it's going to start. And a lot of the CSMs I coach and work with, but also just more and more people I speak to, don't come from the same background that I do, which is something that I realize is more unique as CS has now become its own full function. A lot of CSMs were originally hired or told, hey, you're here to be high NPS scorers, or you're here to make sure a CSAT survey is done. So I would say the first step is really understanding the sales tactics that apply in customer success. I mentioned it earlier already around discovery. So being really comfortable with being curious and going down the discovery route. But I also think that leveraging storytelling is something that is not done in CS often enough. And it doesn't have to be, these aren't difficult tasks or things to learn, by the way. I just think it's things you need to be very comfortable with. And then the last piece that I also really train on is like value-based customer success upselling. And I say this because it's something that I, again, naturally do and I train on, but it's not natural to people to think like this. And I always tell my CSMs, there's three things when you're value-based CS selling. It's the how, the why, and the ROI. So how am I using this product, or how is it that the customer needs to learn to use this product? Why is it important to them and their business? Is it doing something to help them? And then proving the ROI to them. So because you've used our product this way, you've saved 10 hours in your day or hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. And I think if you don't have, again, discovery abilities mixed with the storytelling, mixed with value-based CS selling skills, like all of it isn't difficult to learn, but I think that's like the first moment a CSM should really start to think, hey, I need to think about revenue. And these are the type of tactics and skills I need to be able to go and speak to my customer appropriately. So maybe I got a little bit off topic with that, but I would say that's like the first thing I would address if I'm not comfortable with discussing revenue with a customer.
That's an
And
amazing tip.
ideally, I think, and on the touch point part of it, what I think is ideal, often this doesn't happen, but it's good to communicate this back to your company. Often it's ideal to have logical upsells. Like when you hit this point, when you achieve what you wanted to, you're probably going to want this because that's going to be the next step. Like, if I have something where I'm doing like a launch and I teach people how to get more time back in their day and what strategies they have to do, broad sense, the next step for them is to learn how to do those things now that they have the time, right? So it makes logical upsells. A lot of companies are like, well, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this. And it's like, I mean, I'm glad I can buy goldfish here, but really I'm shopping for clothes, and that's, you're going to have more trouble doing that. So understanding like when your customers get to that goal achievement, what do you need now? What's possible for you now? And asking those questions, that's some voice of the customer stuff that you can communicate back. And it's taken a lot better than they hate this feature. We have these bugs.
Definitely.
And
It's the
just
next best thing for
understanding,
them.
yeah, understanding the jobs to be done methodology, just like getting a very high level overview. Don't go too deep, it's complicated. But just like basically your tool is here to do something the human would have to do if it weren't.
True.
So what does that allow people to do instead? What are the limitations of that? What can't you do there? Then add on what they need next. For your existing touch points, again, it's about what's logical for which type of company. This is why people say it depends in CS so often, because there are things you have to plug into a formula, but it's all the same. It's all figuring out what makes sense for this customer based on who they are, what we sell. But I wish I had
But you
like
have
a
a lot of
1, 2, 3 answer
customers.
for you.
No, it's like there is an umbrella formula of how to approach things, but then you have so many customers, so many industries, so many type of companies, company sizes. It's so hard to to just be able to create one type of expansion strategy or
I think it
so
comes back to the I know we keep saying this, but the journey map and really identifying, like, if you are a leader, identifying for your CSMs, like, if your customer has been with us for 6 months and they've used this much of the product, it would be an ideal time to have a conversation about an upsell. Now, these are lots of assumptions that we're putting out there, and you still have to be a detective. You still have to go discover if the customer wants a tuxedo or a belt. I keep coming back to Rachel's clothing analogy, but
Yeah.
but I think that, like, if you are a leader or you're building out a CS function and you really are thinking about the roadmap to revenue, come up with milestones. You might not have all the answers right away, but if you come up with them and then test the theory against the discovery that you do with your customers, you'll at least know, oops, okay, definitely not the right moment to discuss this. We have to revise when our ideal moment is to have that conversation. Or, amazing, a customer actually engaged and wanted to talk about this. Now we can actually make it a definite point in our journey that this is an ideal moment to have those value-added conversations.
that's amazing. And to keep in mind, it's fluid and you need to assess every time if like you actually had the right formula or not. I loved also what Rachel said before about the reverse engineering, which can help you also understand what are the moments. So the moments you can succeed maybe a little bit more with that point for engagement.
One
So
other thing on that, during the kickoff call, during onboarding, I think that's one of the most valuable and important moments in the entire customer journey, because that's where you're hearing from them, not somebody else, what they're trying to achieve, why, what does that look like? Where are they now? Where do they want to go? But one of the things I think that a lot of people leave out is, what would be an early indication that things are moving in the right direction? To me, that is the end of onboarding. When they see that, oh, this number has started to change. It's not where we want it to be, but things are no longer going down, they're going up. Or we now have more time, we have 20 minutes more than we did before in a week, and can't do much with that, but we see it's working. When
yeah,
they see that, that is one of those, and maybe it's not wow, but it's just like, okay, like now I can buy into this. Now I see a reason to adopt because I have seen what I told you was value realization. And, you get a sense over time with like the same use cases, the same kind of customers, that you can say like a lot of our use cases, a lot of our use cases who are looking to do what you're doing tend to look at this metric. Is that what you use to measure it? Because sometimes people don't know and they need a little guidance. And it's fine not to know, if people are just like, go buy a tool. Okay. So you can help them out a little. But in the beginning, you're just going to have to really dig on those questions, because it also gives you the opportunity to say, oh, you know what? Not really something we do. If that's the case, and clarify, here's what we can do.
yeah,
Because if they have sold something that you can't do, you've got to address it in the, nip it in the bud, figure it out then, because you're never going to be able to achieve it. You might be able to do a workaround, but that's going to cost you more in time and effort. Like, it's not free to keep them. There are resources involved.
true. It
So
sounds like a
that's
CS
really,
nightmare to
yeah,
go on call and realize that like it's not
yeah.
your product value proposition why they came for.
One other tip I'll give is something I like to call pre-paving, which is when you're talking to them about the success plan, basically saying, all right, so you're here and you want to get here. In order to do that, we're going to do steps A, B, C, D. We're going to do this. You're going to do this. We're going to come back and meet, check in, keep moving forward. Once you get to about 75% of the way there, usually it's when this is happening, you're about 75% of the way there, you're probably going to want to start thinking about implementing product B. Only because that's going to allow you to X, get something positive. But that's not something we're going to worry about right now. Right now, we're just on step one. But now we see that they associate that as something that is going to happen. Certain things having to do with language patterns and the subconscious mind, but that's kind of how that works. They see like, oh, this is how it works here. That's a marker of success, that it's time for me to bring on this other part.
I would also add just on what Rachel said, totally agree about the kickoff call, but also success plans being so important. At one of my previous organizations, we did what we called use case based onboarding, and our kickoff slides as well as onboarding was focused on 1 to 2 of our 5 use cases of our product. And our customers, by the way, when they come in the door, they're just like, hi, I want to use it all, and I need it to solve all my problems yesterday, which is amazing. Like, great, you're super excited to get started, but a lot of it needs to be refined, and it needs to be kind of boxed around you dictating the pace at what you're doing everything, but also solving one problem at a time. So when you, like Rachel said, highlight in a success plan that, hey, we've done A and B, and now it's time for us to move to C, which means possibly purchasing more licenses or adding on this new feature. If you start sharing that and making it really clear in a plan with step-by-step actions, it's, again, it becomes a no-brainer that they then start to use more and more of your product and ask you, hey, like, yes, I'm ready to move to step C, which means that we need, more seats in order to do that, or however your model and pricing works. But you need to lay these things out, because using a little bit of psychology, I'm no psych nerd like Rachel, but we are all busy people and we are all only worried about ourselves. And so a customer is not going to care what the heck plan B, C, D is on your customer success plan until you point it out and share it. And you have to share it from a point of, you've seen so much value, coming back to the how, why, ROI piece, that we need to move you to step B. And that being in step B means you need to do X, Y, and Z. And they need to be reminded of it constantly. Like, success plans, kickoff slides, we forget about them. We're just like, tick box, we've done this, but that in your mind, they are everything to you. And in their mind, you are just one call of 50 they're having that week. So just remind them of all these moments that you need to be, using more of our product. And in order to do that, you do need to purchase more seats or whatever it is.
Always lead with what's in it for me from their perspective. Like,
Yeah.
begin with the end. This is what I tell my students. Like, if you leave with 2 things, leave with begin with the end in mind, and what's in it for me, and you'll do fine. But know what you want out of the situation. Do you want them to take it to a higher up? Do you want them to say yes to it? Do you want them to learn more about it? And then you know more how to go about the conversation. And just look at it as, why should they care? They've got 20,000 things on their list. Why should this not languish on there? Is it how could this help them get promoted? How could this help them get their bonus? Because all of us are not saying that outright in our minds, but we're prioritizing. And if you want to be a priority, you better learn how to be a priority to that person who's buying you need in that moment.
Definitely. Definitely, I can tell you from the perspective of like, I'm a customer of Tech B2B. I'm in marketing. I work on a lot of platform, and everyone needs to prioritize. There is not enough time. Even if we'll double the week, there won't be enough time to do everything. So you do the most valuable things during the day. So it will always be the same thing. So as long as a software, service, a person is valuable, you're going to want to dedicate the time. You're enjoying that time together.
It's less about, honestly, it's less about value than about urgency. Because if you look at how we spend our days, me included, but this is like one of the first things I go into is like, how do you build strategic time into your day so that you're working on the things that actually move the needle,
Yeah.
And how can you make sure you get to do your work at work instead of having to do it at the end of the day at home?
My biggest challenge.
Because there's always urgent things coming at you, and you're like, oh, I have to react to that right away. And the strategic or the important gets bumped. So you got to find some urgency there. If, that's, marketing, it's scarcity and urgency. It's not going to be here for long. There's not very many left. You're going to miss out. And you don't want to lie, but you want to find a reason that now. It needs to be now. No, don't wait for the next one. No, don't wait for next quarter. You're going to have less budget next quarter. They're not going to agree with you then if they're not agreeing with you now. Urgency is important along with
I
that.
love it. I love it. We do have a little bit more time, I feel, for one more or maybe two more questions. So we love personal experience. I think both of you gave a lot from your personal experience already, but if you have any a story, a customer success story to share with us that led to a sustainable revenue growth thanks to expansion or upselling or cross-selling, some kind of a challenge you were able to tackle, or like very nice customer story that you can both share.
Do you mean like a successful upsell or a successful moment in an upsell?
Yeah. Something that like, you personally saw happening that led to a huge success, not you, but led to success, and you can give us what was the challenge, what was the need, what was the solution.
Yeah, I'll come back to what I said earlier around the use case based onboarding that we did at a previous organization I was at. The problem we saw was that our onboarding was taken anywhere from 90 to 120 days to get someone onboarded. And a big part of it was, yes, our sales team was value-based selling, so really trying to address a symptom and problem and sell the value of our product. So there's nothing wrong there, but our product was so in-depth and so, I don't want to say technical, but involved a lot of steps to get not only go live, but then scaled and launched with our software, that I identified that this is not going to work, because a lot of our customers were like, I want the perfect cookie cutter go live date with everything live and ready to go before I say I'm out of onboarding, before we say that we're now moving on to the next phase. So because of that, we started to really connect our onboarding and our entire customer journey and upselling manners to use case based onboarding and use case based customer success. So really tying to, hey, there are 3 reasons why you bought our software. We are going to start with reason 1 and get you to go live with reason 1, and then we'll add in reason 2, 3, 4, whatever ends up happening. And we saw that onboarding took less than 30 days because of that, but also we were quicker to upsell or quicker to move into bigger packages because they were seeing value as soon as, and they wanted to move into the next stage of product maturity with our product. So I'd say that for us personally, it was more focusing on use cases and use case based customer success, onboarding, whatever you want to call it. And that resulted, and it wasn't the plan, by the way. The plan was just to reduce onboarding, but eventually it just resulted in, oh, we're delivering value sooner and in shorter bite-sized chunks, that our customers seeing value sooner, so they're naturally going to progress using our product in different ways, and an opportunity to add more seats, because that's what ended up happening naturally, is the more they expanded with our product, the more seats they started to use, which again was, in hindsight, that was a no-brainer, but at the moment we were just like, no, we have to have everything perfect before we can go in and pitch a customer to use more of our product. But reality was, no one's going to be in a perfect state, and we had to just take it step by step. So for me, that was like a big win and a big wow, which wasn't purposeful. It was only about onboarding, but we eventually did result in a huge upsell model and a big uptick on our NRR numbers as well.
That's amazing. I think it really emphasized the importance of demonstrating value fast, and how much trust it creates and how much easier it is after that.
Definitely.
And for me, this was interesting because it was something that I naturally did with my CSMs, and it took me a while to figure out what I was doing so that I could help teach other people to do it too. But there are sort of 2 parts of it. And, I am working on a, like 1-hour workshop on this. I don't know when it will be ready. So here's the idea. Because I've delivered it live, but it's usually like a 3-hour back and forth workshop. But you have to do the part where you know what the problems are your companies have, your customers have, how you can solve those, the pain points, like we talked about, the symptoms. And from that, you can kind of figure out, how do they know now? Like, what questions do you have to ask to get them to realize that they have a problem? Because I mean, even before that, the first thing I do is I get CSMs comfortable with selling. I have some mindset work that we do just through questions, not touchy-feely. It's just through questions and answers and getting around some cognitive distortions like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, if I do that, they will think this, they will do this, which are often incorrect because your brain lies to you all the time. So getting through some of those was essential because otherwise people are like, oh, well, I was going to ask them, or oh, but it wasn't a good day, or oh, I forgot, or oh, I had this call. You have to get them comfortable with the idea that they can try this. And you can't just throw them in the deep end and be like, here, sell. You're always supposed to do that. You know how. Bad math,
Yeah,
people.
definitely.
So train them. But getting past the mindset part and then realizing, all right, what are those symptoms that we talked about that indicate there's a problem we can solve? And how do I ask about that? So the way I approach sales is by asking questions. And CSMs are much more comfortable asking questions
Yeah.
than they are saying like, here, we have this thing, you want it? Because that's not great sales. It's just kind of like blah, versus asking multiple questions to make the customer realize like, oh, this is a bigger problem than I thought, and it's going to get bigger and it's going to cost more. I got to do, what do I do? And then you're like, it's fine. We have something. Would you like to learn more about that? Okay, great. I can help you with that. But that way you want to get them like almost begging for it first and then just being like, look, I can help. That's much more comfortable than, and again, like I don't think this is sleazy because it has to be an actual problem. You are having their back. You are helping them avoid a situation that's going to cause a real problem for them. So that's the whole methodology that I use. And it involves a lot of worksheets to figure out what makes sense for your company because it can't be generic. I don't know what the domino is that tips it over that, turns into a huge problem for your company. But working backwards, we can figure that out and start asking those questions that identify the need. So once I learned how to do that, I was able to help other companies do it. Like once I created a system to convey that, because I just kind of did it through modeling before, it's very consistently raised the upsell rate like 20, 30% in the first quarter. So and it gets better from there. But just having an assignment of like, I don't want you to sell anything. Ask these 3 questions at your next call with this person. It's this kind of person. I have a call planning sheet. It's this kind of person. These are the things that, that equate with that use case, that industry. So ask them these 3 questions. Leave it there. I'm a big fan of bite-sized actions. Because like you don't have to sell anything. Just can you ask these questions and record the answers? Great. We'll move on from there. Then I'll have something for you to ask them next time.
That's a great tip for the team, which can be challenging for them to do those things. Everything you said goes back even to what Anika said in the beginning, the discovery sessions and ask questions, be very mindful about what your customer needs. But also for what you said, Leslie, about creating urgency. This is proactively creating an urgency for a problem that's going to come.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Rachel just said it too. Like if you're uncomfortable with actively selling, you shouldn't have to be. You should just be asking questions. And I challenge a lot of my CSMs and CSMs I work with, like, just keep asking questions. I challenge you to ask a question to everything your customer says. So if you ask the question like, hi, what are your business goals this year? And they say X, Y, and Z, then I would not actually jump in with my product information. My next question would be, how does that relate to using my product? Or what way would you like to utilize my product? And then if they say, oh, we want to do this, this, and this, then I would ask another question to follow up on. Well, so like, I almost say like challenge yourself to go a whole call with your customer asking questions. And then when you have all that information, you can then come back with a value added conversation about, okay, based on what you've told me, we can now have a conversation around how my product can help you reach those goals and outcomes. But if you're not asking the questions, you're just jumping ahead and you're being a sleazy salesperson, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's the same for coaching too. Like coaching is not about here, do it this way. It's about asking the right questions so that people learn to think for themselves and come to the right conclusions. And it's a lot harder than you would think it is. But if you're worried about the question, are they going to notice that I'm just asking questions? No. You can even, we've done experiments with this, but you could even just mirror the last thing they said. Like, so these are our goals. So X, Y, and Z are your goals. And you can just mirror it like that, and they'll go on. But
Yeah, people are obsessed with talking about themselves.
Exactly. People will absolutely take the stage. I'm no different. But they've done studies. People will do this for an hour and not realize. So a great way to practice is do it in a low stakes situation. Your partner, your mother, somebody starts telling you about their day, and just ask a question or say, interesting, tell me more. And ask questions from there. They will feel so good at the end of this, but you will want to jump in and you will want to give answers and solve the problem and be the hero. And just practice, because that's what you're going to jump in and do. And it's a habit you have to break. It's a hard habit to break. So try it at home, and it actually helps with your marriage.
I love it. Basically, we ran out of time, but I think I'm going to give each one like 2 more minutes to answer the last question we have, just to understand a little bit. How have you seen customer success driven revenue growth strategies evolve from 2023? In 2023, we talked about a lot of the things we are talking now, but it was like the first phase of those strategies and tactics, and it feels like that everyone now is doubling down even more. So what did you see? What have you seen evolve, and what are the new challenges that you see or opportunities that emerge in 2024 that we just got started and we have a lot more time to plan ahead?
I would say it's a value piece. I think that that's a big part of everything, value and outcomes. And I don't think this is new news. I think we've been focused on it for so long, but finally the C-suite, the board, the whole company, like, is figuring it out. And because they figured it out, we don't have to work as hard. I say that in air quotes. Like, we don't have to convince our stakeholders as much as we have to convince our customers as well. Now it's like understood, hi, customer success is here to provide value and outcomes for our customers. Go do that. And now this, I think, is the year of value and outcomes. And now we have to go do that with our customers. So I think that that's the big change for me that I'm seeing, is that no longer are we questioning what is a CSM doing, but rather how are they delivering value and outcomes to our customers. And I think the value and outcomes piece, the one other thing I would advise to, if you're a leader or a seasoned CSM, is tie your customers' value and outcomes to your company's revenue piece. Because
or they don't care.
Yeah, like, it's so underrated, by the way. If you get a customer to become an advocate or do a case study, that is tied to revenue. But you need to make that translation, and you need to tell your business leaders, I got 10 customers to do case studies that is now being used by 20 AEs in every call that they do, that then translated to net new business of 100,000 last quarter, or whatever it is. You need to be that bridge, because again, no one's thinking like that. And so focus on the value and outcomes for your customers, but to succeed as a CSM or a CS leader, tie it back to revenue for the company. So that's my big thing on what's changed and what actually hasn't changed.
True. Amazing.
And I would echo a lot of that. I think whatever you do, if you want to communicate it upstairs to anyone who's above you, like I have a podcast today that came out about like how to communicate with the C-suite and why you may not be making progress, why they're not buying into CS and understanding that it's a priority, like basically presentations. But you have to go in, keep it short, be brief, bring charts, show how it affects revenue, And yeah, what is it? Be brief, bring charts, tie it to revenue. Yeah, that's it. So because you need that visual to really fully grasp what's going on financially. Otherwise, it sounds good, but it just doesn't sound that urgent. And I do find that selling CS internally is a difficult, it's what I call pushing the rock up a hill. It's the hardest thing for a CS leader, and you have to continue to do it every day. Because it's easy to take for granted that your customers are going to stay your customers. And I never understood that until I started a business. And you feel like, but I thought of everything. Well, you thought of everything that is in your brain, but not in theirs. So, and people are weird, there used to be a sticker on bananas that said peel and eat. Okay. That's how much level of direction we need. Clearly, people were messing that up to the point that it took a sticker. All right. That's pretty product led, a banana, and they needed that. So it's necessary no matter how intuitive your software is. But of course, it's going to be intuitive to the person who built it. So if you have like a founding CEO, it's going to take a lot. And convincing them like, this is a people problem. This is not your product problem. This is how people work. But also I do agree on the outcomes, and that we've been ringing this bell for years, but that I'm starting to hear larger companies starting to get this. So again, I like to talk about dominoes. The first dominoes are falling, of where the executives are starting to understand, oh, outcomes have to do with revenue. And that is really finally going to be a great thing for us. I've been able to see like what's going to happen in the future of CS because I've been in it for so long. I'm always able to say like, this is what happens next. I just don't know when, which would be useful. But I do think within 9 months, that will be solidly in place. I tend to think like, oh, we're there already. Like, look, these few people talked about it. And then I talk to my coaching clients, and they're like, they don't get it. I'm like, of course they don't. It's not widespread yet. So very long-winded. Sorry about that. But yeah, outcomes.
We're going to have a follow-up webinar in 9 months to check that.
You can. I make no guarantee on time. I just say this is what happens next.
I truly hope that I see Rachel and Anika both answered things in the chat during. I truly hope that we addressed everything, because we are really past our webinar time. But you should find both of them on LinkedIn and shoot them questions personally. They answer very fast, so they are available, which is great. And we will share the recording and several assets also tomorrow in an email. So I believe you'll have everything you need. Thank you all for staying, for listening. Thank you both. It was amazing and super insightful from you also. And
Thanks
we'll be in
everyone for
touch.
joining and spending time with us. I always appreciate that everybody wants to come and chat.
I know, these are always so much fun.
It was. We had a great attendees today, I have to say. So we'll be in touch.
Thanks all.
Great day.
Bye.
Bye.